G'day guys, PBX here. I'm back and my wife tells me I play way too many video games, and today I'm bringing you an Anzac Day special. For those of you that don't know what Anzac stands for or what it means or anything like that, so any of you overseas subscribers who might happen to watch this particular video, Anzac stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, and basically what it does is it celebrates, if you will, or it reminds us of the sacrifices that are made overseas in war. And I mean, war is never ever a good topic to be discussing. We tend to play these shooting games and that kind of thing without any regard for the lives, if you will, of these video games characters. And the thing about Anzac Day is it is real. It's extremely real. These people that go overseas, these men and women these days as well, that go overseas and serve our country so we can have the things that we like, so we can have we can walk down the street without fearing for our lives. We can we can lock the doors at night and sound asleep, not hearing gunfire in the background, or no fear of being abducted and that kind of thing. In Australia, I mean, we are the greatest country in the world, in my opinion. I mean, I'm a little bit one-eyed, if you will. I'm an extremely patriotic Australian, and Anzac Day, to a lot of people, they look at it as just a day off. I'm sure they don't really. I'm sure that in the back of their minds they do remember, or they do associate with the families that have lost loved ones. And I've got a little bit of a story. I went to school with a gentleman by the name of Andrew Jones. We called him Taxi, if you will. He was part of the computer crowd, if you will, but also certainly always did well in sports and that kind of thing. And I went up to him one day, and I asked him, I said, what are your aspirations after school? What are you planning on doing? What is your calling in life? And his answer actually surprised me. He said that he was going to go join the army. He was, he would have been about 16 or 17 years old at the time. But the thing about him, I mean, he was so mature for his age. He was so grown up. He had the mentality of someone that was completely fully developed, had his head screwed on right. He was always doing really well at school and that kind of thing. But I mean, to come up with that kind of career choice at the age of 16 or 17 years of age is pretty incredible when you think about it. When you think about the sacrifices that Australian soldiers have to make. I mean, I've been overseas a couple of times, and they've only been for a couple of weeks, but at the end of those 2 weeks, the amount of homesickness that I had to go through, I mean, I was thinking, when do I get to go home? When do I get to see my wife? She was pregnant at the time, actually, the last time I went overseas. But that was only for 2 weeks. These soldiers, they spend, at least a couple of years overseas, away from their families, dedicating, 100% of their time. We whinge about 40-hour weeks, and we, take Anzac Day as a day off, and, it's a break from that. These guys overseas, they don't get breaks at all. 100% of the time, they are on duty, they have to be alert, they're in danger, and that kind of thing. So it's pretty incredible what these Australian soldiers do, and of course the New Zealand soldiers as well. Don't get me wrong, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, absolutely. I can only really speak from my particular point of view. I live in Australia, of course, as the majority of you guys know. My intro should give that away anyway. But anyway, we'll get back to Andrew. We called him Taxi. We called him Taxi because he had really big ears, and on a cold day, he looked like a taxi with both of their doors open, and that's how we come up with the nickname. Unfortunately, Taxi or Andrew or Mr. Jones or Sir, at this particular point in time, unfortunately, he lost his life overseas. He was mentoring an Afghan soldier, if you will, an Afghan civilian, I believe. Correct myself there. And basically, the whole idea of the mentoring program, for what I know about it, is it was designed to teach these civilians how to basically police their own country, how to support their own country, how to defend their own country, how to determine the difference between what's right and what's wrong, what's acceptable and what's not. This particular gentleman that he's mentoring, I don't think he appreciated that. Whatever, the less said about him, the better, I think, in this particular story. But unfortunately, he pulled a pistol and turned on Andrew. It was on the news, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you guys will remember it. It was about 12, 18 months ago or so. I forget the timing exactly. But he turned the pistol on Andrew and unfortunately ended his life. Ended his life far too early. Andrew he would have been only about 24 or 25 at the time. About the same age as me. I believe we're in the same year level from memory. And the first I'd heard about it was on the news. I actually saw a good friend of mine, Jimmy, who was actually on that particular news broadcast, if you will. And he was really, really, really good mates with Andrew. And he was in complete shock at the time. I saw the face and I remembered the name, and it took me about 30 seconds to a minute or so, and I finally realised who it was. As I said, I wasn't, close-knit mates with him, but I certainly hung around the same sort of guys. I certainly had the same sort of friends as Andrew, and unfortunately, it's a pretty somber story, but what it does is it ties in, and a lot of people forget about Anzac Day, forget about the real meaning of it, and some people do happen to attend the dawn service. Leave a comment below if you did attend the dawn service. Full mass respect to you guys. Unfortunately, I didn't this year, but I certainly have in the past, and they're pretty incredible to go to. So if you ever get a chance, if you've never been to a dawn service on Anzac Day, I certainly suggest getting down to your nearest memorial site, if you will, and participating in the celebration. I call it a celebration because, ultimately, if we... how do I put this? If we remember these kind of days in a sad and somber tone, the thing about them is that I believe that the guys that have fallen, the guys that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country, I don't think they want to be remembered in that particular way. You definitely want to remember them for the good times. If you've known anyone that has lost their life overseas, certainly... yes, of course, you have your sad moments, but certainly remember the moments that you spent with them, if you will. And that way, the reason that they have given their life ultimately so we can enjoy the things that we love it's certainly not going to go unremembered under any circumstances, and it's definitely a celebration of those particular people. It's not a celebration of war. War is certainly nothing to be celebrated about, in my particular opinion. But it's a celebration of their lives. It's a celebration of what they've given for this particular country. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, remember to leave a comment below, especially lest we forget on this special day. I hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time.